Good morning, everyone, or evening if you're listening at a different time. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Bellingham. We're so delighted that you're joining us on live stream, and we hope that if you're a Facebook person, you'll say hey. Right now, I'd like to say hey to our music director, Amber Darlin, and have her kick us off with some music.
Well, thanks, Andrea. Glad to be here this morning. Let's sing this song together. Power of Kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Sing along, here we go. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. We don't know what's coming. We can help shape what's ahead. With kindness as our currency, the commonwealth is in our hands. So give a little on, give a lot, don't stop. A helping hand makes the world go round. There's more than enough. Sing it out. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Power of love. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Listen up now, people, keep your ear to the ground. We are a river flowing, generosity abounds. So give a little on, give a lot, don't stop. A helping hand makes the world go round. There's more than enough. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Are you singing along? Sing it out now. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Sing that again, one more time. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love, power of love. Ooh, I believe in the power of kindness. Ooh, I believe in the power of love. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bellingham Center for Spiritual Living. If you are just tuning in, take a minute to say hello to some of those folks out there tuning in all across the interwebs. So glad you're here this morning. And we'll sing one more song before we head over to our practitioner of the day. Time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my All right, we're going to head over to our practitioner of the day for a prayer.
Thank you, Amber, and good morning, everybody. I'm Joanne Allison, your practitioner for today, and I invite you to join me in prayer. There is one creative, divine energy that is all good. This energy runs through all things, through you and through me. It is the grand creator, the newness. And as I tap into that energy this morning, I sense the beauty, the power, the love, and the life within me. I am this life. This life expresses through me. And I know that our CSL family, our community is connected. We are one in spirit. And as I see your faces in my mind's eye, and I remember the times, the joyful times in the sanctuary, I know that that is happening now across the cybernet and eventually back in the sanctuary. And so this divine community, this community of support and love is steadfast and strong. It exists in spirit and it exists right now. And so I invite you to join with me in spiritual practice this morning as we listen to the words, deeply listen to what message Spirit has for each of us, each unique message to us. And so it is.
Oh, let me feel inner peace from the center of me. Oh, let me feel inner peace from the center of me. Let's sing that again. Oh, let me feel I've got one more song to sing this morning. Oops. And it's about that knowing that we're all so interconnected, and what Dr. Andrea is speaking on today, that interconnectedness and that one strand that connects through all of us and all things. And everything we see. This song is Whistle Along. A bird in the meadow sings her song, waiting on the rest of us to whistle along. A deer on the highway, still as a stone, waiting on the world to finally slow down. Ain't it funny how this life rolls along? Raindrops to puddles, and puddles to the storm drain, drain to the ocean, then back again. A web shining silver, high on the breeze, tiny spider trusts wherever it may lead. Ain't it funny how this life rolls along? Ain't it funny how this life rolls along? A boat on the water, sail into sun, a broken heart held in an old lover's arms, feet to the boardwalk and wings to the blue, a sky full of seabirds and dreamers too. Ain't it funny how this life rolls along? Ain't it funny how this life rolls along? A bird in the meadow sings her song, waiting on the rest of us to whistle along. A deer on the highway, still as a stone, waiting on the world to finally slow down. A bird in the meadow sings her song, waiting on the rest of us to whistle along. Ain't it funny how I whistle along? Ain't it funny how we whistle along?
Thank you, Amber. That was beautiful. Really appreciate that. Well, here we are. It's the last Sunday in August 2020. And here in the Pacific Northwest, we're starting to see the leaves on the tips of the trees turning color as the light changes. And it's a reminder of how, even though this pandemic feels like it's permanent, All things are impermanent, and so we roll along, just as Amber's song said. The theme for August has been the joy of interbeing. And I wanted to dedicate this last service in that topic to the topic, no single thing, which is based on a quote by John Muir. John Muir, you'll remember, a great naturalist, was the one that convinced Teddy Roosevelt to start the national park system and dedicate Yosemite as a national park forever, or at least until impermanence hits again. And so this is one of his quotes. When one tugs at a single thing in nature, one finds it attached to the rest of the world. And so the joy of interbeing and no single thing, today what I wanted to talk about is one of the most difficult spiritual practices to remember and to do, but also one of the most profound. When you begin to study spiritual folks, whether they're Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our Science Mind philosophy, or any of the other great spiritual teachers in the world, they often speak with one voice about certain things. And this particular understanding of interbeing is something that you'll hear throughout spiritual circles, no matter what the tradition. And one of the deepest insights that we find when we begin to walk a spiritual path is exactly what John Muir was pointing to, which is that everything is connected to everything else, and that you can't separate yourself or anything from anything else. One of my favorite examples of this is I was in a Soul Collage facilitators training, and the founder of Soul Collage was a woman named Sina Frost. And her favorite thing to do when she had trained a batch of new facilitators, which I was at that point, was she had this beautiful net, huge net. And on each of the interstices where the net webs joined, there was a jewel. And the jewel represented each new facilitator. So I got to add my jewel to the net. But she based that on an ancient Vedic teaching about Indra's net. And Indra's net is the teaching that interconnectedness of all things comes together like a vast web, and that each jewel in each of the different parts that connect, when you look into it, it reflects all the other jewels in the net. And the net is infinitely wide and deep. And so Indra's net is the earliest example we have of this deep teaching of interbeing, that everything is interwoven and interconnected, and you can't separate yourself from the web. So of course, what happens, as things do in our world, in our sacred human world, is quantum physicists also began to prove this ancient idea of interconnectedness, interbeing. And the way that it finally attained proof was in something called the Bell's theorem. And you probably remember parts of how they were proving that. If you ever heard about the experiment where they took two related electrons and they sent one out as far into space as they could and kept the other one in the lab. And then they spun this one, and simultaneously, with no gap in time, the one so far distant spun at the same time. And so Bell's theorem is where events happening in one place can have an instantaneous impact on other particles that are not connected in any way. So why am I talking to you about this? Well, for one thing, I don't know about you, but I am looking at hopeful things. I noticed that in the pandemic, if I'm not careful, my mind will go to darker places than I want, dark alleyways of thought and feeling. And I really can't afford to do that, not only because I don't want to do that, but because I'm connected to everything else. And the more I reinforce dark and sad and hard, well, it goes out into the web and simultaneously impacts everything. And so, not to be Pollyanna, but at the same time recognizing the responsibility spiritually, I've been looking at hopeful things. So what's the hope in this, you might be asking? Well, if everything is simultaneously impacted by everything else, then you and I have a sacred responsibility and opportunity to be a place of positive spin, positive impact, positive input into the interconnectedness of all life. So I was studying all this, and I'm going to tell you a couple practices that I do that you might want to consider doing to impact the web. But as I was preparing for this talk, this story kept coming up. You know how it is for me. And I kept going, well, this story doesn't really apply. I mean, it's a nice story and all, but no, not right now. And so I would go on preparing my talk, and then the story would come back. And when a story has come back to me a couple of times, I know that for whatever reason, I'm supposed to tell it anyway. Would you like to hear it? I'm hearing a yes. Okay, so I'll try to tie it in. I have a feeling it's for one of you out there, or maybe more than one of you. So a long time ago, my best friend, Jack Cornfield, told a story in one of his books, which I couldn't find. Once the story came back to me, I couldn't find it in the book. But here's, in a nutshell, the story that was told. So you know that Jack was in the Peace Corps, and he went to Thailand. And his journeys in Thailand were so compelling that he actually became a Thai forest monk and stayed in Thailand and studied with a Thai forest monk master. And it was in his time there that he kept hearing about this very special monk that was not of his order. And so he told the story about this monk. And this is the story as I can recall it. So this particular man who became a monk was a policeman in Bangkok. And his particular job was to be an undercover cop and break up opium rings and break up different things that involved addiction and crime. And in his journey as a policeman, he saw the suffering that addiction was bringing to so many people. And in that time, and probably still in this time, opium was the big drug that people were becoming fatally addicted to. And so as he was working undercover, more and more and more, he heard a tug on his heart. And the tug said, you need to relieve the suffering of all beings. You need to turn from this work and become a monk and relieve the suffering of addicts. So he did. He left his job, and one of his understandings from his time as a policeman and as a layperson was that he needed to alleviate suffering in as many ways as he could in his own personal journey. So from that day on, he would no longer ride in cars or buses or any sort of vehicle because, as you probably know, I know you know, cars and vehicles are responsible for killing all manner of living things just all the time, from insects to birds to bats to mammals, you name it. And so he refused to ride in any of those because they were killing machines for him. And so he walked everywhere. So he happened to have this holy aunt, and I mean A-U-N-T, holy aunt. And this aunt was so holy that even though she was a lay person, she had been made, in the eyes of the people, a holy nun. And one of her specialties was botanicals, herbs, and plant medicine. And so what he ended up doing was he ended up walking 135 kilometers northeast of Bangkok into the limestone mountains there. And there were caves there, naturally formed caves from the limestone. And he took up residence in these caves. And with his aunt's help, he began to concoct an herbal remedy for addiction. And he began to offer this to anyone who truly was ready to release being addicted to drugs of any sort. And so people began to come. And there were a couple of extraordinary things about this particular treatment plan. One was that when you arrived there, you made a vow that you would never touch drugs again, ever in your life on the planet, and that you would complete the course of detox and rehab with him, and that once you had completed that, you would then move into service in some way in your own life. So the way the plan worked was this. For 5 days, these folks that came were given an herbal concoction that his aunt provided, and they were completely detoxing their physical form. At the same time, they were being put into these highly heated steam baths with herbs that were in the steam bath with them. And so after 5 days, they were incredibly purified in terms of their physical form, and also their mind had become clearer and their energy was coming back to a certain extent. And then the last 5 days, because the treatment was only 10 days, the last 5 days, they moved into what we would call a rehab, where they were given deep teachings and continuing to be supported in their physical livelihood with wonderful food and steam baths every day and opportunities to talk to monks and things like that. So this monk, still to this day, even though I believe he's passed away, has a 70% success rate, which is unheard of in addiction treatment, 70%. And so at one point, someone went to his aunt and said, how do you account for this success? How do you explain this? And she said, oh, the plant itself, the botanicals and the steam baths, that's not the cure. He's the cure. The monk is the cure. My nephew is the cure. And, I think that story really caught me, because you are the cure and I am the cure. We all have the ability in our own circle of influence to be a place that brings forward something of tremendous value. We may not even really recognize that that's what it is when we're doing it. And yet, the truth be told, I bet you and I have a 70% success rate too in our own way. So interbeing, this practice of interbeing, has to do with what the monk was understanding, that we have the opportunity in this very lifetime to create suffering or to create healing for ourselves first, and then to offer it into the world in some fashion. And so we look at the two different things. We look at how are we creating suffering for ourselves and others, and we look at how can we create healing and how can we put positive things into the web that we're all connected into. And so there are a couple practices that many of us here at CSL practice that I wanted to tell you about, because they're really pivotal. For many of us here, they have made the difference between a suffering life and a joy-filled life. It's not that we don't have difficult things to deal with, like pandemics, but the practices hold us in a place where we're not consumed by that. So here they are. The first one, which I'm sure you've heard of, is in the Science of Mind philosophy, and in unity and in divine science and in many of the new thought ways of thinking. We understand that we really are in a web, and that the web, we would say, is spirit. That you could call the web the mind of the infinite one, if you'd like. And we are all connected in that mind of the infinite one. And because we understand this, we do a particular practice that is very, very, very powerful. But on the surface, because of the words we use, it may not seem that way right at first. And what is that practice? Well, we call it spiritual mind treatment. But often now, for shorthand, we call it affirmative prayer. But let me go back to what we used to call it, which is spiritual mind treatment. That's what we called it forever. Why did we call it that way? Because treatment implied a treatment plan, just like the monk had. It implied that we were doing something of a healing nature that was going to be of tremendous benefit. And so spiritual mind treatment is doing something of tremendous benefit to the one who comes to us for healing. And we do it through the connectedness that we understand we have in the divine mind, in the infinite one. So how does that work? Well, really, in a nutshell, and if you're interested, I know the practitioners are offering affirmative prayer every single day, Monday through Friday, and we also are planning on teaching another class on how to do this. But in a nutshell, this is what you do. Sitting in the consciousness of the one mind, knowing that you are connected to the one who needs prayer, who's asked for prayer. We always ask them to ask for prayer rather than just assuming. So you've been asked to hold a thought maybe, or to do a prayer, and so you do this. You come into that understanding of connectedness with the one who's asked, and you do the prayer for yourself. Why? Remember that particle thing? You're spinning your own particle, and at instantaneously the same moment, the other person has the direct experience of your knowing. So in your own consciousness, you're knowing that the truth of the matter is that this person before you, whatever the situation, is connected to all the intelligence, all the love, any solution that might be needed, whether it's health or wealth or creative expression, livelihood, it doesn't matter. In the one mind, every solution already exists. And so you are tapping into that knowing, and you are holding that knowing in yourself so strongly that you actually feel the truth of it. As soon as that truth is held and you feel it, instantaneously it is manifesting for the person who's come to you. That's how spiritual mind treatment works in a nutshell. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I only have 3 minutes left. So the next practice, one that came into the Western mind through a man named Joe Vitale, who studied with a Hawaiian kahuna named Dr. Hugh Lin. And Dr. Hugh Lin has a famous story, and you should look him up if you haven't heard the story. I'm not going to go into it right now. But basically, he was teaching Joe an ancient Hawaiian shamanic practice called Ho'oponopono. And Ho'oponopono operates on the same idea, the idea that we're all interconnected, and that if I change my understanding, it changes the web. And so Dr. Hugh Lin used this deep understanding to heal criminally insane inmates at a mental hospital in Hawaii. So much so that they eventually closed the hospital, not because of funding, but because the inmates were so much better that they could be released. Ho'oponopono is all over the internet. So you can look it up. There's lots of O's. Just keep typing O's, you'll find it. And it's a very powerful, very simple practice, but it's very effective. So spiritual mind treatment, Ho'oponopono. And then one that not every science mind person practices, but this science mind person practices, is something I learned from the Buddhists when I was at retreat. And at retreat, when you go through the line and get your food, you come and you stand at your table until everyone who comes to be at that table has arrived, which could be 15, 20 minutes. You're standing there with your food, getting cold, and you're just standing there in mindful awareness. They arrive, you bow to your food, you sit down, and you chew the first bite 30 times. And in a deep practice, you chew every bite 30 times. Try that with oatmeal. It's an interesting experience. Be sure to add nuts. So what this is it's part of a larger understanding of the interconnectedness we have that sustains our physical form as well as our spirit and our mind, which is the interconnectedness of all who grow the plants that are processed, that are brought to the cooks who cook the food, and then here it arrives for us to be nourished. And so the eating meditation practice is really a practice of mindfully remembering that we would not be here were it not for countless other beings in every form who have offered themselves so that this food could arrive on our plate. And it's a very powerful practice indeed to do that at least once a day as we start a meal, to remember all the people who have brought, not only the people, but all of the beings who have brought this to the table, including the sunshine and the rain and everything. So it's a practice that transformed my understanding of the interconnectedness, the interbeingness of all things. And whenever I do this practice, I am put right squarely back where I want to be, which is spiritually practicing the remembrance of our interconnectedness. That's where I want to be. Why? I'll tell you why. The title of this month's theme is The Joy of Interbeing. And I haven't talked much about the joy, but what begins to happen when we understand this very profound spiritual insight of interconnection, interbeingness, is we find joy in a way that is not just an ephemeral thing. It's a deep-seated bodily sensation. It lifts the spirit because we understand that we are incredibly blessed in every possible way. And this takes us out of the mind place where we could so easily reside, where the mind is running story after story after story after story of limitation and lack and despair and hopelessness. And I could tell you the litany, but I imagine you're very familiar with the litany, whether it's the litany of how the climate is changing, or politics is this or that, or your relatives are this or that. It doesn't really matter. The litany is there. And that is the cause of suffering, right there, the litany. And the litany multiplied through the web over and over and over, so that it reverberates through the web. This web of suffering goes out. But at the same moment, there are many, many people, many, many millions of people holding their bowl, remembering how blessed, truly blessed they are, remembering the interconnectedness that has brought this food to them, and remembering to give thanks. And in that simple practice, experiencing profound gratitude and joy. One last thing about that eating meditation. In retreat, not every time, but in retreat, there is a special ceremony that is done where everyone in the dining hall is asked to take a piece of their food, can be anything, out of their bowl, and place it into another bowl. So it makes the round of the dining hall through all the different tables, so that this bowl is now full. And a bell is sounded, and the bowl is taken out and offered to those who are hungry in the world. The significance of that ritual for me is the significance that I'm speaking about today, about our responsibility, our sacred responsibility, which is not only to find joy in our own lives, but to simultaneously offer it into the world, to offer blessing out in whatever way we have. It can be so simple, but every single time one of us does something that brings something of beauty, of love, of compassion, of kindness into the web, every single time, all over the web, in an infinite manner of ways that we can't ever experience, we have brought joy, love, compassion, kindness out into that which we share. And it really, really matters. Individually, it is the ending of suffering for us. Collectively, it is the ending of suffering for all species. So, don't get all bogged down in this, but I invite you into practice, because it's a practice, which means you're going to forget, you're going to remember, you're going to forget, you're going to remember. You're going to practice, 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 and then one day you're going to just forget all about it. And that's the nature of sacred humans sometimes. The point is, I'm inviting you to remember. So let me do one of those practices right now for myself. But if this resonates with you, know that we're connected and it works for you too. And then I'll go into announcements. So I set aside all the difficulties that my mind wants to remind me of for just a moment. And I turn to the seat of the infinite indwelling presence that I am sitting within. And in this deep place of connection to all that is, I accept and know for myself a profound lifting of my spirit, my mind, my heart, and my body. I am lifted in gratitude, lifted in joy, and I hold these gifts of joy and gratitude with a tender heart open to all that is, and offer those right back into the web that I am connected with for all sacred humans and all species everywhere. I offer joy. I offer gratitude to all living beings. And as I offer this, I feel the connection that I have to all of life, to the indwelling one. And I feel a deep sense of peace, deep peace, knowing that this place of remembrance is always available. And I vow to return to this place of gratitude and joy again and again, not only for my own benefit, but for all beings everywhere. And so it is. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears and become very practical. We have a couple of things that we want you to be aware of that you might want to be involved in. As we're turning from summer activities into school, whatever that's going to look like for all of us, we are offering a brand new class starting on September 22nd. And we're inviting you to be a part of it wherever you live, because it's going to be offered on Zoom. I'm going to be teaching it. It's called Essential Earnest, and it is a 10-week course that will be offered on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 8. And it is not only a wonderful place to learn and grow together, but it's a really incredible time to connect with one another on the spiritual level and to imbibe in the spiritual concepts that lift our hearts and minds. So you're invited to come to that class. How do you do that? A couple of things. Amazon has the book. It's called The Essential Earnest Homes, and you can get it today if you go on Amazon. And we'll be using that book. We will be meeting starting on the 22nd a little bit early. So if you want to come a little bit early so we can get oriented, make sure that all of our technology is working, that would be great. The tuition for this class is $200, which supports me and the center, and we deeply appreciate those of you who have the ability to pay the tuition. Thank you. If you don't have that, I want you to know that we have a policy here at our center that anyone can take a class, and you won't get credit for it, but you will get heart credit for it by imbuing the principles. So we hope that one way or another you will make the attempt to come to this wonderful class and be a part of it. Let's see what else. On the 21st, which is the day before the class begins, every year on the 21st of September, there is a celebration of International Day of Peace. And our organization, Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, celebrates that day as a way of putting into the web the idea that peace is possible and that we are the place where peace begins. So our center is going to be doing a Zoom event to celebrate peace and to offer it, to bless each country in the world. So as many people as possible, I hope, will come to this event. It's going to be about an hour and 15 minutes long on Zoom. And as many people as are there, we're inviting you to bring an unlit candle and something to light it with, and we will honor every country of the world. We will send blessing to that country. we will know peace is in that land, and then a final blessing will happen where we all light a candle as a symbol of the light of peace now awake in the hearts and minds of all of us. So 21st of September starts at 7 o'clock. We'd love you to be a part of it. How do you sign up? Well, you need to email the center. And so the center's email is info@csl-bellingham.org. And we'd love you to let us know if this is something you would like to be a part of. Let's see what else. We have the men's group coming up, not next Sunday, but the Sunday afterward on the 13th of September at 12-ish, 12:15, 12-ish, 12:15. Nope, 12. Thank you. Philip's here, and he is one of the leaders of the men's circle. It is also via Zoom, and you can either contact the office or you can contact Phil directly, and his email is in the constant contact announcements. If you're not receiving those, you may want to consider getting on that list because it has all of the information that I'm telling you, and you'll have it right in front of you. Just contact the office and they'll get it to you. In addition to the men's group meeting on the 13th, the women's circle, the Sacred Circle of Women, is meeting for the first time in the season on September 11th. And they meet at 6 o'clock in the evening that Friday. And if you identify as a woman, we invite you to come and be a part of that Zoom experience. It really is like walking into a sacred circle, even though you're on Zoom. And we have a wonderful evening planned for you for that as well. We have other things coming up, and so be sure and stay connected with us. I think the only other things that are coming up that I really want you to know about are we are going to be doing a very special ritual of remembrance for those who have passed away from COVID in this time of pandemic. That'll be coming up at the end of September, and we'll tell you more about that. But if you are one who grew marigolds for us, heads up, we would love to start receiving those marigolds. Anytime you want to harvest them, you can bring them here, and we'll have a box out on our porch so that you can deposit them there. Okay, well, I think that's enough. So I'm going to go over to Amber and have her close us out with one of her wonderful songs. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Dr. Andrea. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All of my life, all of my life, I'm gonna let it shine. All of my life, I'm gonna let it shine. All of my life, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right, let's sing it out. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next Sunday.